Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel and welcome to all newcomers. Today, we're going over part 3 of What If Naruto Was OP. Before we start, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe so you're here for future videos and what ifs. Thanks, and let's jump in. Chapter 3, Episode 4, The Week 3 vs the Sound Village. As the eerie flute notes continued to echo through the forest of death, Sakura, Choji, and Shikamaru braced themselves for the inevitable confrontation. Their hearts raced as they peered out from their hidden refuge beneath the giant tree, sensing danger lurking nearby. "Stay alert," Shikamaru cautioned, his brow furrowed. "We don't know what we're up against." Just then, the Sound Ninjas, draped in dark cloaks, emerged from the shadows. Their faces were obscured, and their sinister aura sent chills down the trio's spines. "They don't look friendly," Choji grunted, taking a defensive stance in front of Naruto and Sasuke. Without warning, the lead Sound Ninja raised a hand, unleashing a wave of sound energy that rippled through the air, sending shockwaves that rattled their bones. Shikamaru quickly reacted, forming hand signs. "Shadow Possession Jutsu," he shouted, extending his shadow toward one of the attackers. The ninja barely evaded, darting to the side with surprising speed. "Over here," Sakura called, charging forward with a powerful punch aimed at another enemy. But the Sound Ninja effortlessly sidestepped, countering with a swift kick that knocked her back. "Watch out, Sakura," Choji shouted, rushing in to tackle the attacker, his body expansion jutsu in full effect. He managed to connect, but the Sound Ninja quickly regained composure and retaliated with a sharp elbow to Choji's gut, causing him to stumble. "We can't let them break in," Shikamaru yelled, trying to regroup with Sakura and Choji. "We need a plan." As the Sound Ninjas surrounded them, each member of the trio fought valiantly, but fatigue began to set in. They were outnumbered and their opponents seemed to anticipate their every move. The situation grew increasingly dire, and hope began to wane. "Shikamaru, I can't hold on much longer," Sakura panted, her fists shaking from exhaustion. Choji nodded, sweat pouring down his face as he struggled to maintain his composure. Just then, a flash of green whirled through the forest, and a familiar voice rang out. "I'm here. Sorry I'm late." It was Rock Lee, bursting onto the scene with an infectious energy that immediately lifted their spirits. "Lee," Shikamaru exclaimed, relief flooding through him. "We could really use your help." Without missing a beat, Lee launched himself into the fray, his taijutsu skills shining as he expertly dodged an incoming attack. "Let's show them what we've got," he declared, striking with precision and power. As Lee joined the fight, the tide began to turn. He expertly weaved between the Sound Ninjas, delivering rapid punches and kicks that caught their opponents off guard. "You won't get past us," he shouted, his confidence radiating through the group. The Sound Ninjas, now feeling the pressure, faltered in their attacks. With Lee's remarkable speed and strength, he provided the trio with the openings they needed. Sakura found her footing again, focusing her chakra and launching a flurry of powerful punches alongside Lee. "Great timing, Lee," Choji shouted, using the distraction to execute his own attack. He barreled into a Sound Ninja, sending him crashing into a nearby tree. "Let's finish this," Shikamaru encouraged, quickly executing another Shadow Possession jutsu to restrain an enemy, allowing Lee to land a devastating kick that sent the ninja sprawling. The Sound Ninjas began to retreat, realizing they were outmatched. "We need to regroup," one of them shouted, signaling the others to fall back into the shadows. As the last of the sound ninjas disappeared, the group stood panting, their adrenaline slowly fading. Lee grinned at his friends, his enthusiasm unwavering. "That was awesome. We fought together like true comrades." Sakura smiled, her spirit lifted by Lee's presence. "Thanks for showing up when you did, Lee." Shikamaru nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "Yeah, we really needed you. But we can't let our guard down yet. We still need to stay vigilant until Naruto and Sasuke wake up." "Right," Choji agreed, looking at his teammates. "We need to get back to them and make sure they're okay." With renewed determination, the group regrouped around Naruto and Sasuke, ready to protect them against any further threats as they awaited their friend's recovery. The bond of their team had been tested, but together, they emerged stronger, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in the unforgiving forest of death. As Rock Lee dashed off to find his team, Sakura, Choji, and Shikamaru stayed vigilant, keeping watch over the unconscious forms of Naruto and Sasuke. The aftermath of their battle still lingered in the air, heavy with tension. Relief swept through the group as both began to stir. Naruto blinked, his mind foggy from exhaustion. "What happened?" he muttered, struggling to sit up. His eyes darted around, noting his teammates standing guard and Sasuke lying nearby, looking worse for wear. "Relax," Shikamaru said. "We held off some sound ninjas while you were out. Lee showed up just in time to back us up." Sasuke groaned as she rubbed her neck, the faint mark from Orochimaru still visible. "Looks like we're both in rough shape," she muttered, glancing at Naruto. "You good?" "Barely," Naruto admitted with a weak grin. "But I'll live." As Ino stirred awake beside them, she sat up groggily. "What did I miss?" "Just a little chaos," Sakura replied, offering a small, relieved smile. "But we're fine now." Naruto's expression shifted as he looked at Sasuke, noticing how pale she appeared. A mix of guilt and resolve crossed his face. Without a word, he reached into his gear pouch and pulled out their heaven scroll. "Hey, Sasuke," Naruto said, his voice steady despite the surprised looks from his team. "Take this. You need it more than we do." "What?" Shikamaru asked sharply, his eyes narrowing. "You're giving our heaven scroll to them." "Yeah," Naruto replied simply, holding the scroll out to Sasuke's team. "They fought to protect us while we were out cold. And Sasuke's in worse shape than I am. She needs to recover. They deserve this." Sasuke's eyes widened slightly, but she took the scroll without argument. "Thanks," she said quietly, her pride making the words come out stiff. Sakura and Choji exchanged uncertain glances, but they said nothing as Sasuke tucked the scroll away. Ino and Shikamaru, however, weren't as quiet. "Naruto, are you serious?" Ino said, her tone incredulous. "Now we have to start over." "Yeah," Shikamaru added, his usual calm giving way to frustration. "This complicates everything. We're back at square one." "I know," Naruto said firmly, looking at both of them. "But it's the right thing to do. They fought for us when they didn't have to. Now, let's move. We've got a new mission. Find both a heaven and earth scroll." Without waiting for further argument, Naruto started moving, his resolve clear. Shikamaru muttered something about troublemakers under his breath but followed, along with Ino, who still looked frustrated. As Sasuke's team prepared to head in the opposite direction, Sakura called out, "Be careful out there." "You too," Naruto replied, giving them a quick wave before leaping into the trees. Naruto's team moved swiftly through the forest, the urgency of their new goal driving them forward. The atmosphere was tense, with Shikamaru and Ino still visibly irritated, but Naruto remained focused. "Stick together," Shikamaru instructed, his sharp eyes scanning for any signs of movement. "We're not getting ambushed again." Naruto nodded, his senses on high alert. "We'll find the scrolls. We just have to keep moving." With that, they pressed deeper into the forest of death, determined to overcome the setback and secure their place in the next stage of the exams. The hours passed as they trekked through the underbrush, their senses heightened, each moment laden with uncertainty. They occasionally caught glimpses of other teams but remained cautious, not wanting to provoke a confrontation unless necessary. Meanwhile, Sasuke's team moved through the forest with a similar focus, strategically evaluating their surroundings. Choji kept his strength up by munching on some chips, while Sakura scanned the trees for any signs of movement. "Let's keep our distance from other teams unless we absolutely have to engage," Sasuke advised, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "We need to find our scroll quickly." As time slipped away, both teams pressed on, determined to fulfill their objectives and prove themselves in the grueling challenge of the Forest of Death. The next encounter could make all the difference, and each member knew that every decision mattered in this high-stakes exam. As dusk settled over the Forest of Death, the shadows deepened, and the forest began to hum with nocturnal sounds. Despite the lingering fatigue from the earlier battles, Naruto felt the weight of exhaustion pulling him down. He had pushed himself hard during the day, and his body was demanding rest. "Hey, Ino," he said quietly, glancing over at her as they settled beneath the canopy of a sprawling tree. "I think I need to sleep for a bit." Ino, having kept her energy up by staying alert and focused, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, you look beat. I'll keep you company." They found a comfortable spot against the tree's thick trunk, the bark providing a natural cushion. Ino settled in beside him, resting her head against the tree as she closed her eyes. Naruto, although tired, felt a surge of warmth from her presence. He let out a content sigh and let himself drift off into a light sleep. Meanwhile, Shikamaru kept a vigilant lookout. His sharp eyes scanned the dimly lit surroundings, keenly aware of every rustle and sound that echoed through the forest. He leaned back against the tree, using a nearby rock to prop himself up, but his mind was racing. It was a task to stay alert, especially with the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. As night fell, the temperature dropped, and the forest seemed to come alive with unseen dangers lurking in the darkness. He focused on the distant sounds, aware that other teams might be nearby, but he didn't let his mind wander. Suddenly, Shikamaru caught sight of movement in the shadows, figures moving stealthily among the trees. His heart raced as he noted the distinct signs of other ninja. He glanced down at Naruto and Ino, ensuring they were still peacefully sleeping before shifting his position to get a better view. "Stay alert, guys," he whispered softly, though he knew they were both in a deep slumber. "We might have company." As the figures drew closer, Shikamaru strained his ears, trying to discern their intentions. He recognized the uniforms of the Sound Ninjas, Orochimaru's goons. Tension flooded his veins as he considered the potential threat. Not wanting to wake Naruto and Ino just yet, Shikamaru prepared himself to defend their spot if necessary. He weighed his options carefully. He could alert his teammates, but that might give away their position, especially if the enemy was nearby. With a deep breath, He steadied his resolve and decided to wait for the right moment. He would have to act quickly if they were discovered, ensuring his friends would have the chance to recover while he held off any attackers. In the quiet of the forest, the stakes rose higher with each passing minute as the sound ninjas continued their search, unaware that they were being watched. Hours later, morning broke once again. Ino and Naruto found themselves curled up next to each other as they began to stir from their sleep. Realizing she had been sleeping so close to Naruto, Ino blushed in embarrassment. Before she could react further, a distinct smell caught her attention. Peeking out of the hollow base of the tree they had taken refuge in, she spotted Shikamaru by a campfire, cooking fish. Naruto awoke soon after, groggy but curious, and joined them. "What's going on?" he asked, noticing the fish roasting over the fire. He questioned Shikamaru about where the fish had come from and why he had started cooking without waking them. Shikamaru explained that he didn't want to disturb them and had gone out to search for food. During his search, he discovered a nearby river, decided to take a swim, and managed to catch some fish. Naruto expressed his gratitude, thanking Shikamaru for the food and for standing by him during their encounter with the Sound Ninjas. As the three sat down to eat, Naruto extended his thanks to both Ino and Shikamaru for defending him. While they ate, Shikamaru brought up Naruto's mysterious white glow during the fight. "That energy, was it the same power you used during our mission in the mist?" he asked. Naruto confirmed with a nod. Shikamaru then pressed further. "Why didn't you use it earlier, against Orochimaru?" Naruto explained that the technique was difficult to control and came with severe backlash, making it a last resort rather than a first option. As they finished their meal, Naruto's expression suddenly grew serious. He had sensed something nearby. "There's chakra in the distance," he informed his teammates. "We need to check it out and see if it's someone we can get a scroll from." Without hesitation, the team set off, leaping through the trees toward the chakra source. Episode 5. The Assassin Within's The Leaf's Shadow vs. the Monster Alone in the Desert. Upon arriving at the scene, Naruto and his team spotted Gaara and her sisters locked in a tense standoff against a group of enemy ninjas. Naruto's first instinct was to knock the enemies out quickly and claim their scrolls. However, he hesitated, knowing it would be unwise to use his chakra without understanding the opponent's strengths and weaknesses. "Let's watch for now," Naruto whispered, signaling his teammates to stay hidden. "We need to know what we're dealing with." From a nearby tree, they observed the unfolding confrontation. One of the enemy ninjas sneered at Gaara, his voice dripping with disdain. "You've come here to die, kid." Gaara remained unmoved, her expression cold. She lived for moments like this, where carnage was inevitable. Naruto watched intently, feeling his chakra surge as his body prepared for action. Sensing this, Shikamaru shot him a warning look. "Keep your chakra in check," he murmured. "We don't want to give ourselves away." The enemy ninja launched his attack, casting a jutsu that made sharp needles rain from the sky. But the attempt was futile. Gaara used the sand from the gourd strapped to her back, forming an impenetrable shield around herself. "That's incredible," Ino whispered, awestruck. "She's using sand as a defense." Once the barrage of needles stopped, Gaara raised her hand, her sand responding like a living entity. The grains coiled around one of the enemy ninjas, encasing him in a tight, inescapable shell. Then, with a chilling calmness, she raised the sand cocoon into the air. "Time to make it rain blood," Gaara declared, her voice devoid of empathy. With a swift motion, she clenched her fist. The ninja let out a final scream as the sand crushed his body, causing blood and viscera to splatter everywhere. The remaining enemy ninjas stood frozen in horror, their comrades' remains dripping from their clothes. Gaara, unfazed, opened an umbrella to shield herself from the gruesome downpour. Her sister, Kankura, recoiled in fear, deeply disturbed by the display. She couldn't shake the unease her younger sister's violent tendencies stirred within her. Naruto's team exchanged uneasy glances, the brutal scene leaving them visibly uncomfortable. "This is intense," Shikamaru muttered under his breath. "Come on," Naruto commanded, leaping down from the tree just as Gaara finished dispatching the remaining enemy ninjas. The sand-coated battlefield was eerily silent as Naruto's bold move caught the Sand siblings' attention. "Good," Naruto said, his tone even. "You have 2 scrolls we need." Gaara, Temari, and Kankura turned, surprised to see the same kid they had encountered before. Gaara's lip curled into a sinister smirk. "You want the scrolls?" she asked, her tone laced with menace. "You'll have to fight for them." Naruto nodded. "If that's what it takes." Gaara stepped forward, her bloodlust palpable. "Fine. I'll kill you. But if you manage to defeat me, the scrolls are yours." Naruto dropped into a fighting stance, his resolve unshaken. Ino and Shikamaru quickly joined him, ready for the inevitable clash. The Sand siblings mirrored their readiness, Gaara's sand swirling ominously around her. The tension was electric as both teams prepared for battle. Naruto's mind raced, anticipating every possible move. He was ready for anything. As Naruto and Gaara faced off, the tension between the two groups was palpable. Gaara's eyes narrowed as she prepared to unleash her sand, but Naruto stood calmly, his gaze focused and determined. Before either could make a move, Naruto turned to Ino and Shikamaru. "Stay out of this. I need to handle her myself," he said firmly. On the other side, Gaara gave similar orders to her siblings, instructing them not to interfere. Naruto could feel his chakra surging through him, more potent than usual, flooding his system with power. He hadn't felt this strong in a long time. With a sharp inhale, Naruto activated his time skip ability, and everything around him slowed down to a near standstill. His movement accelerated, giving him a 0.1 second window of pure speed. He darted forward, testing his increased strength and speed by landing a series of rapid punches against nearby trees, feeling the wood crack and splinter beneath his knuckles. Gaara's eyes barely registered his movements. To her, Naruto had simply disappeared for a split second. But she remained composed, the sand from her gourd slowly spilling out and forming a defensive wall around her. Naruto took advantage of his time skip window, dodging between trees and striking them as a warm-up. He was testing his reflexes and power, feeling how much more precise and controlled his punches had become. Each hit left deep indentations in the bark, the force of his attacks sending shockwaves through the air. He grinned to himself, realizing just how far he had come with mastering his abilities. Gaara, growing impatient, sent a tendril of sand shooting toward Naruto. At the last second, Naruto's time skip triggered again, and he sidestepped the attack effortlessly, appearing behind Gaara as if out of nowhere. He aimed a punch at her back, but her sand barrier reacted almost instantly, blocking his strike. Still, the impact sent a ripple through the sand, forcing Gaara to acknowledge his newfound speed. "You're faster than before," Gaara said, her voice cold but intrigued. Naruto smirked, wiping the sweat from his brow. And stronger. Gaara responded by raising more sand, shaping it into massive hands that lunged toward him. Naruto's eyes flickered with focus as he entered another time skip. This time, the window was long enough for him to dodge and counter with a roundhouse kick that shattered a chunk of the sand hand. The force of his strike echoed, and Gaara, though protected, could feel the pressure building. Naruto darted back, weaving through the trees, using them to test his combat agility. His punches and kicks were landing faster, sharper, and the trees trembled with every hit. He paused for a brief moment, feeling the chakra still coursing through him, realizing that his control over the time skip had improved. "You're not the only one who's changed," Naruto said, his voice steady as he prepared for his next move. Gaara raised both hands, commanding her sand to form a dome around her. "Then show me," she replied. Naruto's muscles tensed as he vanished once again, moving faster than Gaara could react. This time, his time skip brought him right inside her defensive dome. Gaara's eyes widened as Naruto appeared in front of her, fist already cocked back. With a powerful strike, he hit her shield, sending a crack through the sand. Gaara staggered slightly, surprised by the strength behind the punch. But before she could retaliate, Naruto activated another time skip. He appeared beside her, delivering a swift knee to her side, pushing her back. Gaara grunted in pain but quickly recovered, sending a wave of sand toward him. Naruto didn't flinch. He vanished again, this time moving behind Gaara and preparing to deliver a finishing blow. Suddenly, Gaara's sand flared up, sensing the danger, and wrapped around her defensively. Naruto's fist slammed into the sand, but the sheer force of his attack sent cracked spider webbing across the barrier. Gaara, breathing heavily, realized that Naruto wasn't just faster, he was overwhelming her with both speed and power. "You're strong," she muttered, the sand swirling defensively around her, "but I won't be defeated so easily." Naruto stood still for a moment, his eyes sharp and focused. "I don't intend to lose either." He could feel the chakra building even more inside him, but he knew he had to end this before the strain became too much. He glanced at Ino and Shikamaru in the distance, both watching the fight intensely. Turning back to Gaara, Naruto activated his time skip once more, this time pouring more chakra into it. His figure blurred as he reappeared directly in front of Gaara. Her sand lashed out to defend her, but it wasn't fast enough. Naruto's fist collided with her shield again, this time shattering through it completely. The shockwave from the hit blew sand away, leaving Gaara stunned and vulnerable. Naruto pulled back, ready for the final strike, but suddenly stopped. He could sense something within Gaara, an overwhelming chakra stirring deep inside her. Her eyes glinted with something dark, something dangerous. "This isn't over yet," Naruto thought to himself as he prepared for what was coming next. Naruto stood still for a moment, feeling the tension in the air after shattering Gaara's sand defense. His instincts screamed at him that this fight was far from over. Gaara's chakra surged, darker and more oppressive than before. The sand around her swirled violently, creating a vortex of defensive power, and Naruto could feel the shift in her demeanor. She was unleashing something far more dangerous. Gaara's eyes gleamed with malice, and a low growl escaped her lips. "You're pushing me too far, Naruto. I'll show you what happens when someone like you faces true power." Naruto didn't flinch. Instead, he smirked, feeling a familiar sensation growing within him. His body was adapting, and improving. A purple aura was covering him that only he noticed. Pure progress. The ability that allowed him to grow stronger during battle was kicking in. He could feel it in his muscles, in the way his movements became smoother, more efficient. His mind sharpened, analyzing Gaara's attacks, his instincts heightened. Let's see how much stronger I can get, he thought. Gaara raised her hand, and the sand responded immediately, forming massive claws that lunged toward Naruto. This time, he didn't activate his time skip immediately. Instead, he gauged the speed of the attack, stepping back just enough to avoid the claws but staying close enough to counter. The sand claws swiped at him, but he ducked and weaved through them, his movements becoming more fluid with each second. He could feel his combat ability evolving in real time. The strain he felt moments ago from pushing his chakra was fading, replaced with a growing ease in channeling his energy. Naruto leapt back and tested his strength with a quick burst of chakra into his fist, slamming it into the ground. The force of the punch sent a shockwave through the battlefield, scattering debris and sand. Gaara staggered, momentarily caught off guard by the sheer force behind the blow. Naruto smiled, realizing he was getting stronger with each exchange. He felt his chakra circulating more efficiently, his control tightening as the pure progress ability honed his skills mid-fight. Gaara's patience ran thin. You think you're stronger? It doesn't matter. My sand will crush you, she screamed, sending waves of sand crashing toward Naruto. Naruto dodged, flipping through the air with greater agility than before. He felt his mind speeding up, processing Gaara's attacks with newfound clarity. Pure progress wasn't just making him stronger, it was sharpening his battle sense. He could anticipate Gaara's next moves, see the weaknesses in her defense. He didn't need to rely solely on his time skip anymore. He could match her speed and power head-on. Gaara raised her hand again, summoning a massive wave of sand that towered over Naruto. This time, Naruto didn't run. He planted his feet firmly on the ground, summoning chakra into his fists. With a loud roar, he punched forward, and the chakra-infused strike collided with the sand wave. The impact caused an explosion of sand and chakra, and to Gaara's shock, Naruto shattered the wave completely. How? Gaara muttered, staring wide-eyed at Naruto as the sand fell like rain around them. Naruto stood tall, his eyes gleaming with focus. You're not the only one getting stronger, he said, his voice confident. His control over his chakra had become more refined, and the power surging through him felt more natural now. He was adapting, evolving right in front of Gaara's eyes. Gaara snarled in frustration, her chakra flaring even more violently. She extended her hand, and the sand morphed into massive tendrils, each one faster and more aggressive than before. Naruto's instincts screamed at him to activate his time skip, but something inside him clicked. He didn't need it. Instead of using time skip, Naruto focused purely on his new speed and power. As the tendrils shot toward him, he moved with precision, ducking and weaving between them. His fists glowed with chakra as he struck at each tendril, shattering them with a single blow. Gaara's sand attacks were fast, but Naruto's improved reflexes and strength were more than a match. Gaara's frustration peaked. Her sand gourd cracked open, and from within, an enormous wave of sand erupted, forming a gigantic clawed arm that shot toward Naruto. This was a far more deadly attack, one meant to end the fight. But Naruto, fully attuned to the battle, activated his time skip again, this time with far greater efficiency. In that fraction of a second, everything slowed to a crawl. Naruto could see the giant sand claw moving toward him, but instead of simply dodging it, he charged forward. His improved control over the time skip allowed him to move faster and hit harder in the brief window he had. In a blur of motion, he landed punch after punch on the claw, breaking it apart bit by bit until it crumbled completely. When time resumed, Naruto was standing inches from Gaara, his fist glowing with chakra. Gaara barely had time to react before Naruto swung his punch, aiming for the center of her defenses. Her sand reacted, forming a barrier, but Naruto's fist pierced through it, shattering the defense and landing just short of Gaara's face. Gaara froze, her eyes wide with shock. She could feel the power radiating from Naruto, and for the first time, a sliver of doubt crept into her mind. Naruto lowered his fist, his breathing steady, his body fully in sync with his newfound power. "This fight's over, Gaara. I've already surpassed you." Gaara gritted her teeth, her hands trembling. But before she could make another move, Naruto's aura flared. His eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her hesitate. She knew it wasn't just brute strength that made Naruto stronger, it was his ability to learn, to adapt. He was no longer the same fighter from just moments ago. Gaara's sand retreated slightly, and Naruto took a step back. "You still want to fight?" he asked calmly, though his chakra was still pulsing with power. Gaara hesitated, then lowered her hands. "You've won. For now." Naruto exhaled, the tension leaving his body. He turned to his teammates, who had been watching silently from the sidelines. Ino and Shikamaru both had the same expression, one of awe. "You've really grown," Shikamaru said, shaking his head in disbelief. Naruto smiled, though there was still a seriousness in his gaze. "There's still more to learn," he replied, his mind already racing with possibilities. The fight had pushed him to new limits, but he knew that this was just the beginning of his true potential. Gaara stared at Naruto for a few more tense moments, her breathing still heavy from the fight. The realization of her loss settled in, but her pride refused to let her admit it out loud. Without a word, she reached into her pouch and pulled out 2 scrolls, their prize for completing this part of the exam. Her hand trembled slightly as she extended them toward Naruto. Naruto stepped forward, his expression calm and focused, showing no signs of gloating over his victory. He accepted the scrolls with a respectful nod, appreciating the gravity of what had just happened. "Thank you," he said quietly, acknowledging Gaara's gesture. Gaara's siblings, Kankuro and Temari, watched in stunned silence, still processing the fact that Naruto had managed to defeat their sister. Kankura shifted uncomfortably, clearly uneasy about how the fight had turned out, but she didn't interfere. As Naruto tucked the scrolls into his vest, Gaara's eyes flickered with something between frustration and respect. "You've grown stronger, Naruto," she admitted, her voice low but steady. "But don't think this is the last time we'll meet. Next time, I won't hold back." Naruto gave a small smile in response. "I'll be ready," he said, his confidence clear but not arrogant. Ino and Shikamaru finally approached, their expressions a mix of relief and pride. Ino couldn't help but smile. "You did it, Naruto," she said, a hint of admiration in her voice. "And you're way stronger than I thought." Shikamaru, always the analyst, simply nodded. "You've really changed, Naruto. That ability of yours, whatever it is, it's something else." Naruto glanced at them, appreciating their words but already thinking ahead. He felt the power of pure progress still coursing through him, his body and mind adapting to the fight and its lessons. He knew he had unlocked new levels of strength, but there was more room to grow. The fight had shown him what he was capable of, but it also reminded him that stronger enemies lay ahead. "We should get moving," Naruto said, his tone shifting back to practicality. "We've got the scrolls, but this exam isn't over yet." Gaara, still standing a few feet away, watched him for a moment longer before turning to leave with her siblings. "Next time, Naruto," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else, as she and her team disappeared into the trees. Naruto, Ino, and Shikamaru exchanged glances before leaping back into the forest canopy. With the scrolls secured and their confidence renewed, they knew the next challenge was just around the corner, but for now, Naruto had proven his strength, both to his team and to himself. As Naruto's team navigated through the dense forest, he felt the exhilaration of victory begin to fade, replaced by an intense strain coursing through his body. Each step became heavier, the adrenaline from the fight with Gaara waning and revealing the toll that his pure progress ability had taken on him. Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the fatigue settling in. Instant pure progress of adaptation had pushed him beyond his limits, allowing him to adapt and grow stronger during battle quickly, but at a price. The strain was like a tightening vice, squeezing the remnants of energy from his limbs. "I need to figure this out," he thought, a sense of urgency igniting within him. "If I can master control over this power, I won't feel this kind of pain every time I push my limits." The idea of a secret technique lingered in his mind, one that could help him harness his chakra more efficiently and minimize the strain from using pure progress. Ino noticed his discomfort and slowed her pace, glancing back at him with concern. "Hey, are you okay, Naruto?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. "Yeah, I'm fine," he replied, forcing a smile. "Just feeling the effects of using that ability a little too much." Shikamaru, who had been observing quietly, spoke up. "You need to pace yourself. The more you use it without proper control, the more damage it does to you in the long run. Remember, your body can only handle so much." Naruto nodded, acknowledging the truth in Shikamaru's words. He had been reckless, fueled by the thrill of battle and the desire to prove himself. Now, he needed to find a way to balance that power with the endurance to withstand its effects. The thought of the secret technique resurfaced, igniting a determination within him. "Maybe I can create something new, something that combines my chakra control with the progress I gain in battle," he mused internally. He envisioned the training required to refine his abilities, to delve deeper into his chakra reserves and master the art of adaptation without paying the physical price. As they continued toward the tower, Naruto focused on his breathing, trying to channel his chakra into a steady flow. He envisioned each pulse of energy becoming more manageable, more efficient. He would find a way to harness his strength without the debilitating strain. "Let's keep moving," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "We'll reach the tower soon, and I'll figure this out." With his team at his side, Naruto pushed forward, determination igniting a fire within him. He would not only conquer this exam but also master the true potential of his powers. The next time he faced a challenge, he would be ready, stronger and more in control than ever before. After reaching the tower, Naruto and his team stepped inside. Naruto was visibly fatigued, his body still recovering from the strain of using his pure progress ability. While he appreciated its power, he knew he needed to refine his control over it. Despite its similarities to Ultra Instinct, pure progress placed less strain on him, but it still demanded improvement. "Hang in there, Naruto," both Ino and Shikamaru said as they supported him, helping him walk by resting his arms on their shoulders. They looked around the empty tower, finding nothing inside except a large board with an inscription. "If you lack heaven, then attain knowledge. If you lack earth, develop your body." The board seemed to grant permission to open their scrolls. The three of them exchanged nervous glances before cautiously unrolling the scrolls together. As the scrolls opened, smoke began to rise from them. "Throw them," Shikamaru shouted, quickly tossing his scroll into the center of the room. Ino and Naruto followed suit. The scrolls hit the ground, and the smoke thickened, filling the room. From the haze, a familiar voice called out, "Congratulations, Team 7. You've passed." When the smoke cleared, Iruka Yumino, their former teacher, stood before them with a warm smile. "Ino, Shikamaru, Naruto," Iruka greeted. Ino blinked in surprise. "Iruka-sensei, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to advance you to the next round," Iruka explained. Naruto tilted his head. "But why were you in the scrolls?" Iruka smirked and reminded them, "Do you remember the rule about not opening the scrolls during the exam?" The scrolls were rigged to summon a proctor if someone broke that rule. That proctor's job was to knock out the violators and disqualify them. It was a safeguard to maintain fairness. Shikamaru crossed his arms, his brow furrowed. "So what's the point of all this, then?" Iruka's expression turned serious. This test wasn't just about survival, it was about balance. A shinobi needs both intelligence and strength to succeed. If you lack one, you must work to develop it. Relying on only one will only lead to trouble. That's the lesson of this exercise. The team absorbed Iruka's words in silence. After a pause, he added, "You've earned 2 days to rest before the next part of the exam. Use it wisely." With that, Iruka dismissed them, and Team 7 left the tower, making their way to Ichiraku Ramen to celebrate. As they ate, Shikamaru leaned back in his chair. "So, what do you think the next part of the exam will be about, Ino?" Ino tapped her chin thoughtfully. "If I had to guess, it'll probably involve actual combat. Maybe one-on-one fights or some kind of team battle." "That sounds troublesome," Shikamaru muttered before turning to Naruto. "What about you? Feeling better after using that crazy power of yours?" Naruto slurped his noodles, then grinned. "Yeah, my strength's coming back. I barely feel the strain now." His smile faded slightly as he added, "Sorry for making you guys worry, though. I pushed myself too far." Ino shook her head. "You don't need to apologize. You gave everything for the team. We wouldn't have made it without you." Naruto's grin returned, more determined this time. "Thanks. But we've still got a lot to prove. If we're going to make it to the end, we need to train harder. We can't let anything catch us off guard in the next round." The three shared a nod of agreement. With renewed determination, they resolved to prepare for whatever challenges awaited them. Episode 6. Premilaries Tournament. 2 days later, Naruto and his team returned to the tower in the center of the Forest of Death. The atmosphere was tense as the participants gathered around the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. The Hokage addressed the group with serious news. "There has been a breach in the Forest of Death," Hiruzen announced, his gaze scanning the assembled genin. A rogue ninja by the name of Orochimaru infiltrated the area. He disguised himself by stealing another's face. Naruto's eyes widened at the mention of Orochimaru. Memories of the woman who had attacked Sasuke during the exam flashed in his mind. Glancing over at Sasuke, he noticed her rubbing her neck where the strange mark had appeared. Concerned, Naruto approached Sakura, who stood nearby. "Why does Sasuke have that mark on her neck?" Naruto asked quietly. Sakura hesitated before responding. "Orochimaru gave it to her. He said that if she wanted power, she should seek him out." Naruto frowned and focused on Sasuke, his senses sharpening. He could feel her chakra being drawn into the mark. The realization hit him. This curse mark wasn't just a brand, it was actively draining her energy. Before he could raise his hand to inform the Hokage, Sasuke grabbed his wrist, her grip firm. Her dark eyes locked onto his. "Don't even think about telling them about this mark," she warned, her voice low but resolute. Naruto pulled his hand away, glaring. "1. Don't touch me like that again unless you want to die. And 2. Why shouldn't I tell them? This is my business," Sasuke snapped. "I have something to prove to myself, and I won't let you or anyone else interfere." Naruto stared at her, their standoff thick with unspoken tension. Eventually, he relented with a sigh. "Fine. But if that mark gets out of control, I'm telling the Hokage." Sasuke didn't respond, but her expression showed her determination. The Hokage continued addressing the genin, explaining that the next phase of the exams would be modified. "Due to the large number of participants advancing, we will hold one-on-one preliminary matches. Despite Orochimaru's appearance, the exams will proceed as planned while we continue searching for him." The announcement set the stage for the upcoming battles. The matches unfolded much as they had in previous years, until one unusual moment. From the balcony above the arena, Naruto watched intently as Neji Hyuga and Gaara of the Sand prepared to face each other. But before the fight could begin, Neji raised his hand. "I forfeit," Neji declared, stepping back. Gaara's face twisted with anger. "You're wasting my time," she growled, her thirst for battle evident. She had been looking forward to crushing her opponent, and Neji's decision only fueled her frustration. Naruto turned to Sakura, noting her anxious expression. She was still shaken from Sasuke's earlier fight against Yoroi Akato. During that match, Sasuke had struggled at first but gained an overwhelming edge when the curse mark activated. The transformation was alarming. Sasuke's body had been surrounded by a menacing purple aura, reminiscent of the surge of power Naruto felt when he used the full strength of pure progress. Though it made her incredibly powerful, it also consumed her. She had nearly killed Yoroi before the proctors intervened, subduing her just in time. Even after being escorted to the hospital, Sasuke seemed content, as though winning justified the danger she posed to herself and others. Naruto's thoughts shifted to the next match, Rock Lee vs Kiba Inuzuka. The tension in the room thickened as both competitors stepped forward, ready to give it their all. Rock Lee and Kiba Inuzuka faced off in the center of the arena, both eager to show their strength. Akamaru, Kiba's loyal companion, stood at his side, growling in anticipation. Lee's eyes were intense and focused. He knew Kiba and Akamaru would be tough opponents, but he was determined to win without relying on his usual tricks. "Don't hold back, Kiba," Lee said with a serious tone. "Show me everything you've got." Kiba smirked, brushing his thumb across his nose. So Lee's serious. "Good. This'll be fun," he thought. "You asked for it. Let's go." Akamaru, At the signal to begin, Kiba and Akamaru sprinted forward, closing the distance in an instant. Fang over fang, Kiba shouted as he and Akamaru transformed into two spinning drills, spiraling toward Lee with ferocious speed. Lee's muscles tensed as he watched them approach. They're faster than I expected, he realized. He dodged left, narrowly avoiding Akamaru's attack, then pivoted back to duck under Kiba's spinning assault. I need to stay close enough to counter, Lee calculated, watching as the two whirled around to attack again. But Kiba was already adapting, his mind racing with new strategies. So Lee's agile enough to dodge the first strike. Let's see how he handles two of us. Kiba quickly fed a soldier pill to Akamaru, who ate it eagerly. Instantly, Akamaru's chakra spiked, and he barked with renewed energy. In a swift motion, Kiba performed a hand seal, transforming Akamaru into an identical clone of himself with the beast-human clone technique. Two Kibas now faced Lee, both with confident grins. Get ready, Lee, the real Kiba shouted, launching into another fang-over-fang attack. Lee narrowed his eyes, watching the two approach at blistering speed. Two spinning attacks, stronger and faster than before, he analyzed. This could be difficult to dodge again. Just before the twin drills collided with him, Lee sprang forward, executing a quick somersault between the two. The spinning Kibas whizzed past him, barely missing him. As he landed, Lee spun back around, a determined look on his face. Close call, he thought. I'll need to be faster if I want to keep this up. Kiba and Akamaru halted, turning to face him again, surprise flickering across Kiba's face. He dodged us twice. Most people can't react that fast. Not bad, Lee, Kiba called out, catching his breath. He's quick, and he's smart. If I let up even a little, he'll keep dodging. Glancing at Akamaru, he knew they'd have to escalate things. Akamaru, let's show him our strongest move. Akamaru barked in agreement, his energy charged and ready. The two Kibas sprang into the air, spinning faster than ever, creating a large, roaring vortex of chakra and speed. Man-Beast Ultimate Taijutsu, Fang Wolf Fang, Kiba shouted, as they tore toward Lee like a single, massive drill. Lee watched, his mind racing. This is faster and more powerful than the last attacks. I'll have to time this perfectly. As the spinning drill bore down on him, Lee waited until the last possible moment, focusing intently. Then, with a burst of movement, he leapt high into the air, executing a backflip just as Kiba's attack obliterated the ground beneath him. The audience gasped as debris flew up around them, and Kiba's attack skidded to a halt, leaving a deep gouge in the ground. Kiba and Akamaru stood there, panting as they realized they had missed again. How is he dodging everything? Kiba thought, frustration building. He's faster than I expected, but he can't keep this up forever. Lee didn't give them a moment to regroup. He landed gracefully and dashed toward them, closing the distance with incredible speed. Now's my chance to turn the fight around. In an instant, Lee was in front of Kiba, delivering a series of rapid punches and kicks. Kiba barely managed to block, his arms shaking with the impact of each strike. This guy's even stronger than he looks. Come on, Kiba, Lee said between strikes. You can't win if you don't focus. Frustrated, Kiba backed up, his breathing labored as he struggled to keep up. Akamaru, still in his transformed state, tried to flank Lee from behind. But Lee was prepared. He spun around, catching Akamaru with a quick backhand strike, sending him skidding across the ground. Kiba stumbled as he watched Akamaru roll back to his original form, exhausted from the soldier pill. Damn, he's already worn out. Akamaru. This isn't looking good. The audience watched in awe, the tension in the air thick. Shikamaru crossed his arms, a look of respect in his eyes. Lee's been training harder than any of us realized, he murmured to himself. Ino, also watching, clenched her fists. I don't know how Kiba's going to keep up with that kind of speed and strength. Kiba, though exhausted, wasn't ready to give up. He locked eyes with Lee, a fierce determination in his gaze. I can't lose. Not here, not like this. I still have one last move. Gritting his teeth, he crouched low, ready to launch another attack. But the proctor stepped forward, raising his hand. That's enough, he called out, signaling the end of the match. The winner is Rock Lee. The crowd erupted in applause as Lee relaxed his stance, breathing heavily but smiling. That was an intense match. Kiba really pushed me, he thought, satisfied with the fight. Kiba, though disappointed, walked over with Akamaru at his side. Despite his loss, he managed a grin. You're crazy fast, Lee. Next time, I'll be ready. Lee extended a hand to him. You fought well, Kiba. Thank you for giving it your all. Kiba shook his hand, his respect for Lee growing. Looks like I'll need to train even harder if I want to beat him someday. With newfound determination, both fighters left the arena, each silently vowing to improve even more for the battles ahead. Naruto vs. Gaara, the machine whirred to life, its lights blinking as it selected the next fighters. The names appeared on the screen. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Gaara of the Sand. The crowd murmured with anticipation as the two opponents descended into the arena, each preparing in their own way. Naruto stretched his legs and practiced his punches, his movements deliberate and measured. Across from him, Gaara stood silently, her teal eyes fixed on her opponent, her face an unreadable mask. She remained motionless, her sand swirling protectively around her, ready to respond to any attack. Naruto contemplated his strategy. He could use instant pure progress of adaptation (IPPA) to boost his power and win decisively. However, he hesitated. Its toll on his body would leave him vulnerable afterward. The proctor signaled the start of the match. Naruto charged in, aiming a straightforward punch, only to have it stopped midair by Gaara's sand. Frustrated but undeterred, he began darting around her, testing her defenses and searching for weaknesses. He launched a flurry of punches and kicks, but her sand moved faster than he could, effortlessly blocking every strike. Realizing his current approach wasn't working, Naruto paused and smirked. I guess it's time to take things seriously. He unzipped his jacket, revealing a weighted training garment underneath. I've been wearing this for training, he explained. It's made battles tougher, but it's also made me stronger. Let's see how you handle me at full speed. Naruto shrugged off the weighted jacket and dropped it to the ground. The impact created a crater, sending shockwaves across the arena. Gasps echoed from the spectators, and even Temari, watching from the balcony, felt her confidence waver. What the? Temari thought, her eyes wide. How much weight was he carrying? Naruto wasted no time. With his speed now unhindered, he dashed towards Gaara, his movements nearly a blur. He aimed another punch, and while her sand barely managed to block it, the sheer force caused it to ripple. Undeterred, Naruto pressed the attack, weaving through Gaara's defenses and landing several clean hits. The pressure was relentless. Gaara's siblings, Kankura and Temari watched with growing concern. Their usually invincible sister was struggling. "Gaara's getting cooked," Kankura muttered, her voice tinged with worry. Naruto, sensing the tide of the battle turning, decided to end it. He channeled his chakra into his fist and activated Time Skip, momentarily bending time to his will. In an instant, he appeared behind Gaara, delivering a precise blow to the back of her head. Gaara collapsed, unconscious before she hit the ground. The arena fell silent. No one had expected Gaara to be defeated so swiftly. Naruto knelt down, carefully lifting Gaara in his arms. As he carried her over to her siblings, Kankura and Temari tensed, unsure of his intentions. "What are you doing?" Kankura demanded. Naruto didn't answer immediately. He placed Gaara gently on the ground and pressed his hand to her forehead, channeling his chakra. The energy flowed softly, and moments later, Gaara's eyes fluttered open. She looked up at Naruto, confused but unharmed. "What happened?" she asked, her voice soft. "I knocked you out," Naruto said plainly. "You're strong, but I fight to win." Gaara blinked, her expression shifting from confusion to something resembling admiration. A faint blush crept across her cheeks as she looked at him. She was stunned, not only by his power but also by the respect he showed in handling her after the match. Her siblings were equally amazed. Temari muttered, "How does someone like him even exist? Strong, skilled, and kind." Gaara, now sitting up, asked, "How did you defeat me so easily?" Naruto smiled faintly. "I don't overthink. I just fight." The preliminary rounds concluded with Naruto's decisive victory. The third Hokage stepped forward, addressing the participants. "Congratulations to those who advanced. The final stage of the Chunin exams will take place in 1 month. Use this time to prepare yourselves." As the competitors dispersed, Naruto stood tall, his victory not only earning respect but also planting the seeds of something unexpected in Gaara's heart. The remaining participants in the Chunin exams had 1 month to train, refine their skills, and develop new strategies. With the preliminary rounds over, each competitor was now familiar with the other's abilities, meaning they had to find ways to surprise their opponents. Adding to the pressure, the final matches would be observed by village leaders, including the Kage, who would decide which of them were worthy of promotion to Chunin. Naruto resolved to improve, vowing not to rely solely on his speed or time skip abilities. He knew he needed to master his other techniques and broaden his arsenal to ensure victory. Meanwhile, Kakashi discussed Sasuke's condition with Sakura, who asked if he had any updates. To her disappointment, Kakashi admitted he didn't know much about her current state. At the Ninja Academy, Konohamaru tried to sneak out by pretending he needed to use the bathroom. However, Iruka, his teacher, immediately saw through the excuse, scolding the young ninja for his antics. Elsewhere, Orochimaru was speaking with Kabuto, who had just informed him that the preliminary rounds had concluded and the final stage of the exams was set to begin. Orochimaru's lips curled into a sinister smile. "Konoha has enjoyed peace for far too long," he mused. "While they've been complacent, others have been preparing. Maybe it's time to shake things up." Kabuto, always attentive, added, "You've mentioned before that killing the Hokage wouldn't be much of a challenge for you." "It wouldn't even be entertaining." Orochimaru chuckled darkly. "True. But the real fun lies in breaking their spirit. Sasuke, she's the key to that. She's already marked by my curse, and even though Kakashi sealed it, the darkness in her heart remains." Her hunger for revenge makes her ripe for manipulation. Kabuto nodded but hesitated before asking, "Do you doubt my skills? I've proven myself capable time and time again." Orochimaru's gaze sharpened. "Your silence is proof of your loyalty, Kabuto. But trust is a fragile thing. If you ever thought of betraying me, I assure you, you wouldn't live long enough to regret it." Kabuto stiffened but said nothing. Orochimaru smirked at his discomfort before dismissing him. "Relax. I'm joking. Mostly. You're free to go." Meanwhile, Kakashi decided to check on Sasuke. Arriving at her room, he immediately noticed something was off. There were no guards posted outside. Peeking inside, he spotted Kabuto standing next to Sasuke's unconscious form. Alarmed, Kakashi burst into the room with a kunai in hand. Surveying the scene, Kakashi saw the fallen Anbu guards and realized Kabuto was no ordinary genin. He quickly pieced together Kabuto's identity, the son of a prominent medical corps chief and a skilled infiltrator working with Orochimaru. Kakashi demanded answers. "Are you in league with Orochimaru?" Kabuto smirked. "What difference would it make? Even if you arrested me, you'd have no proof." Kakashi readied his kunai for an attack, but Kabuto moved faster, drawing his own blade, not toward Kakashi, but toward Sasuke. "If you think you can stop me before I slit her throat, go ahead. Otherwise, drop the weapon." Kakashi hesitated but eventually set his kunai on the ground. Kabuto sneered. "Smart choice." As Kabuto turned to leave, the sound of footsteps filled the room. Another Kakashi appeared in the doorway. The real Kakashi and his clone now surrounded Kabuto. Smirking, Kabuto looked at one of the fallen Anbu guards. The guard suddenly leapt out of the window, removing their mask mid-air to reveal Kabuto himself. Kakashi realized too late that the Kabuto in the room was a dead soul jutsu clone. Next time, Kakashi muttered, "I'll be ready for you." Back at the Forest of Death's tower, the Hokage gathered the remaining participants and handed each a slip of paper with a number written on it. These numbers determined the matchups for the tournament. Hiruzen addressed them all. The final stage of the Chunin exams will be a public tournament held in 1 month. Your performance will be judged not only on victory but on skill, strategy, and adaptability. All of you could be promoted, or none of you. He added a final piece of advice. Change how you fight. Everyone here knows your abilities now. If you fail to adapt, you will fail to advance. With that, the second stage of the Chunin exams officially came to an end, leaving the competitors to prepare for what would be the most grueling test of their lives.